So let me ask you this. AllStar JR, Detroit rapper, he was in Houston. He was chilling, minding his business. And allegedly NBA Ben10 and another associate, they rolled in the restaurant. Tussle breaks out. They try to take off AllStar JR's jewelry. A gun falls. AllStar JR.
It wasn't supposed to go this far. That's what everyone is saying now. A late-night statement, quiet, almost controlled, started circulating where the father of Ksoo, known as AllStar JR, reportedly says something that instantly sends shockwaves through the streets and the internet at the same time. It was never supposed to be like that. He did too much after. No yelling. No chaos. Just that one line, and suddenly, everything people thought they understood about the situation starts to shift. Because the name being brought back into this conversation is NBA Ben10, and the implication behind those words is what's making this explode. Not just what happened, but what happened after. The part nobody talks about. The part that allegedly crossed a line. Fans are shocked. Because up until now, most of the focus has been on the incident itself. But this is different. This is about behavior. About what took place in those moments that followed. And according to what's being hinted at, that's where everything went wrong. And then things get even heavier. A second clip surfaces, unverified, but spreading fast, where a voice believed to be connected to AllStar JR says, "There's a code, and that code got broken." That line alone sends the internet into a frenzy. Because now, people aren't just reacting emotionally, they're analyzing. What code? Who broke it? And why is it being brought up now? Emotions ran high as old footage began resurfacing. Moments where people laughed, joked, taunted. Things that once looked like regular street behavior now being viewed through a completely different lens. Because if what's being said is true, then the issue isn't just what happened. It's how it was handled after it happened. And that's where the tension really starts to build. Because now, the conversation isn't just about actions. It's about consequences. The reaction didn't stay quiet, it erupted. Within hours of that statement spreading, timelines were flooded with people revisiting everything connected to Ksoo, AllStar JR, and NBA Ben10, trying to understand exactly what "he did too much after" really meant. Because that phrase wasn't random. It sounded specific. Like there was a moment, one moment, that crossed a line nobody was supposed to cross. At first, some people brushed it off. Said it was just talk. Just someone trying to shift blame or control a narrative. But that didn't last long. Because as more clips resurfaced, the tone started to change. Old footage that once looked like typical online behavior, laughing, reacting, saying things in the heat of the moment, now felt different. People started slowing videos down, replaying reactions, focusing on expressions, on what was said and how it was said. Fans are shocked because the focus is no longer just on the incident itself. It's on the aftermath, the energy, the way things were handled when everything was already done. And that's where the conversation gets uncomfortable. One particular clip started gaining attention fast. It shows a group reacting in real time, and while nothing is directly confirmed, people claim you can hear a voice making comments that now feel out of place. At the time, it sounded like adrenaline. Now, it sounds like something else entirely. Something that, if true, would explain why AllStar JR is speaking the way he is now. Emotions ran high as debates took over every platform. Some fans are saying, "That's just how people react. You can't judge someone in that moment." Others aren't so forgiving. They're saying there's a line between reacting and disrespecting, and if that line was crossed, then everything changes. And then came the moment that pushed things even further. A second statement, again unconfirmed but widely shared, began circulating where AllStar JR allegedly says, "You don't play with situations like that, not after." That word, after, keeps coming back. Because it suggests that what happened before is one thing, But what happened after is something else entirely. Something that carries its own weight. The family was left divided instantly. Not just fans, but people connected to the culture itself. Some siding with the idea that emotions can't be controlled in moments like that. Others saying that certain actions, certain words, should never happen no matter what. Meanwhile, attention shifts toward Ksoo. Not because he's speaking, but because he isn't. No response. No clarification. Just silence. And in a situation like this, silence doesn't make things disappear. It makes people look closer. Because when someone close to you is speaking out, and you're not saying anything, people start asking why. Then came another twist. A short audio clip began circulating where a voice, unclear, distorted, says, "It wasn't the act, it was the reaction that made it worse." That line hits immediately, because it confirms what people are already starting to feel. That this situation isn't just about one moment, it's about how that moment was followed up. Fans are shocked again, because now the narrative is shifting completely. It's not about what happened in isolation, it's about how everything unfolded afterward. And once that idea takes hold, people start revisiting everything with a different mindset. Every clip, every reaction, every word, looking for that moment, that line that might have been crossed. And through all of this, one thing keeps echoing louder than anything else. He did too much after. At first, it sounded like a vague statement. Now, it feels like a direct accusation. One that's pulling people deeper into a story they thought they already understood. The conversation didn't slow down, it sharpened. Because once people locked onto that phrase, "He did too much after," they started zeroing in on specific moments, trying to identify exactly where that line might have been crossed. And then a longer clip surfaced. Not new, but newly relevant. In it, a voice, believed by many to be tied to AllStar JR, says, "There's rules to this, whether people want to admit it or not." That sentence changed the tone immediately. Because now, it wasn't just about feelings or reactions, it was about codes. Unwritten rules that people inside that world understand without needing them explained. Fans are shocked, because once the idea of a code enters the conversation, everything becomes more serious. People start asking what those rules actually are, and what happens when someone breaks them. Some say it's about respect. Others say it's about timing. But almost everyone agrees on one thing. There's a difference between reacting in the moment and continuing after the moment has passed. Emotions ran high as more footage began circulating. One video in particular gained traction, showing a group in what appears to be a high-energy setting shortly after everything unfolded. The reactions are intense, voices raised, movements quick, and while nothing is clearly confirmed, people claim certain comments cross into territory that doesn't sit right. At the time, it looked like adrenaline. Now, it's being viewed as something more calculated. The family was left divided again, but now the arguments feel heavier. Some fans are saying people are being judged too harshly for how they reacted under pressure. Others are pushing back, saying pressure doesn't excuse everything, that there are lines that shouldn't be crossed no matter what the situation is. And then came a moment that shifted everything again. A statement, allegedly from someone close to the situation, began circulating saying, "It wasn't just about disrespect, it was about making it public." That line added a whole new layer. Because now, the issue isn't just what was said or done, it's about where and how it was shown. About the idea that certain things, even if they happen, aren't meant to be put on display. Fans are shocked once more, because this introduces a different kind of tension. The difference between private reaction and public reaction. And once that line gets blurred, it changes how everything is interpreted. Meanwhile, attention quietly returns to NBA Ben10. Not because he's speaking, but because his name is being brought up in a different context now. Not just as part of what happened, but as part of what followed. People start asking how he was being referenced, how his name was used, how his presence was handled in those moments after. And with every new question, the situation becomes more layered. Then came another unexpected twist. A short voice note, clearer than the previous ones, began circulating where a voice says, "You gotta understand, once it crosses that point, you can't take it back." That line hit hard, because it suggests finality. That whatever happened after wasn't just a mistake, it was something permanent. Something that changed how everything would be viewed moving forward. Fans are shocked again, caught between trying to understand the context and realizing that context might not fully explain it. Because at this point, it's not just about what happened, it's about the impact of what happened after. And through all of this, one idea keeps coming back. That the reaction carried more weight than the action itself. That what followed might have done more damage than what started it. And as more people continue to analyze, debate, and question, one thing becomes clear. This isn't a simple story anymore. It's a layered situation where every detail matters. Every word matters. Every reaction matters. Because once people believe a line has been crossed, they don't just focus on the moment. They focus on everything around it. By the time the next wave hit, it didn't feel like people were guessing anymore. It felt like they were narrowing in. Because a new clip surfaced that shifted everything from general speculation to something that sounded almost like confirmation. In it, a voice, again believed by many to be tied to AllStar JR, says, "It went past the point where it could be explained. That's the problem." That line didn't just add tension, it defined it. Because now, it suggests there was a moment where things could have been handled differently, and then a moment where that option disappeared completely. Fans are shocked, because that statement doesn't leave much room for interpretation. It implies escalation. It implies a decision, or a reaction, that took things further than anyone expected. And once that idea sets in, people begin rewatching everything again. But this time, they're not just looking for clues. They're looking for that exact moment. The shift. The turning point. Emotions ran high as another piece of footage started circulating, one that had been posted before but never analyzed this deeply. It shows a group in a high-energy state, voices overlapping, movements quick, and while nothing is directly confirmed, people claim you can feel the difference in tone. Not just excitement, something sharper. Something that feels like it goes beyond the moment itself. And that's what people are focusing on now, the energy. The family was left divided once again, but this time, the divide feels almost permanent. Some fans are saying people are reading too much into reactions that were never meant to be dissected like this. Others are convinced that the consistency of these clips, these statements, these tones, mean something real is being revealed piece by piece. Meanwhile, the name NBA Ben10 continues to echo through the conversation, but now in a more serious way. Not just as someone involved in the situation, but as the center of how everything after is being judged. Because at this point, it's not just about what was said, it's about who it was said about, and how far it went. Then came the moment that pushed everything even further. A short video clip, grainy but clear enough, began circulating showing someone reacting in a way that many are calling too much. No direct confirmation of identity, but the internet quickly connected it to the narrative already forming. In the clip, the reaction isn't just loud, it's extended, repeated, and that's what people are focusing on. Not the initial reaction, but the continuation of it. Fans are shocked, because this aligns too closely with what's been hinted at from the beginning. That it wasn't the first moment, it was what came after. And now, with something visual to attach to that idea, the conversation becomes even more intense. And just when it seemed like everything had already been said, another detail surfaced. A statement, unverified but widely discussed, claimed, "He wasn't supposed to say anything. That's where it went wrong." That line adds another layer. Because now, it's not just about how something was said, it's about whether it should have been said at all. About expectations. About boundaries that may have been understood but not followed. Fans are shocked again, because this shifts the focus from reaction to intention. If someone wasn't supposed to say anything, then speaking at all becomes the issue. And if they went beyond that, then it becomes something else entirely. And through all of this, one idea keeps becoming stronger. That there was a moment where things could have stayed controlled. And then something happened that pushed it beyond control. Not slowly, not gradually, but in a way that changed how everything would be seen afterward. And now, as people continue to go back, rewatch, reanalyze, they're not just asking what happened. They're asking why it happened the way it did, and whether it could have been different. Because once people believe that a line wasn't just crossed, but completely ignored, the story stops being about the beginning and becomes about the fallout. By the time the final wave of clips hit, it didn't feel like anything was being left to interpretation anymore. It felt like the narrative had reached a point where every new piece only confirmed what people were already starting to believe. A longer video surfaced, edited, slowed down, zoomed in, and this time, the focus wasn't just on voices or statements. It was on behavior, movements, reactions that lasted longer than people expected. And once again, everything circled back to that same idea, that something went too far after everything was already done. In the middle of that clip, a voice, unclear but firm, can be heard saying, "That's where it got out of hand." That line didn't just add tension, it brought everything together. Because it matches what AllStar JR had been hinting at from the beginning. That there was a moment where things crossed from reaction into something else entirely. Fans are shocked, because now they're not just hearing about it, they're seeing something that seems to line up with what's been said. And even though nothing is officially confirmed, the consistency between the statements and the footage is enough to keep the conversation moving at full speed. People aren't debating whether something happened anymore. They're debating how far it went. Emotions ran high across every platform. Some fans are saying this proves exactly what's been hinted at all along, that the issue wasn't the situation itself, but the way it was handled afterward. Others are pushing back, saying people are still making assumptions based on incomplete information. But even those trying to stay neutral admit one thing. This doesn't feel like coincidence anymore. The family was left divided in a way that feels almost locked in now. Not just opinions, but positions. People choosing sides and sticking to them, because at this point, changing your perspective means rethinking everything you've already believed about the situation. Meanwhile, the silence from Ksoo continues to shape everything. At first, it was just noticeable. Now, it feels strategic. Because while AllStar JR's words keep resurfacing and gaining traction, Ksoo's absence from the conversation becomes louder with each passing hour. Some fans interpret it as someone choosing not to add fuel to the fire. Others see it as someone avoiding a conversation that's getting harder to ignore. Then came the moment that brought everything to its peak. A final audio clip dropped, clear, direct, and impossible to overlook. In it, a voice says, "Once you cross that line, it's not about fixing it anymore." That line hits differently than everything before. Because it doesn't suggest confusion. It suggests finality. That whatever happened after can't be undone. Fans are shocked once again, because now the narrative feels complete, even without official confirmation. Not complete in the sense of answers, but complete in the sense of direction. Everything points back to the same conclusion. That the aftermath changed everything. And through all of this, one thing stands out more than anything else. This was never just about one moment. It was about what followed that moment. The words, the reactions, the decisions made when everything could have gone quiet, but didn't. And now, as people continue to analyze every second, every statement, every detail, the focus isn't shifting anymore. It's locked in. On that idea that keeps coming back. He did too much after. At first, it sounded like a warning. Now, it feels like a judgment. One that people aren't letting go of anytime soon. Because once a moment like that gets defined in the public eye, it doesn't fade. It stays. And now it all comes back to you, because at this point, this isn't just a story anymore. It's a debate that's not slowing down anytime soon. What started with a few words from Ksoo's father, AllStar JR, has now turned into a full conversation about what really matters in moments like this. Not just what happens, but what happens after. Fans are shocked. Emotions ran high. The family was left divided. And even now, nobody can fully agree on what crossed the line, or if a line was crossed at all. So now I'm asking you directly, do you think what's being said is valid, that things went too far after the situation? Or do you feel like people are overanalyzing reactions that happened in the heat of the moment? And what about the silence from Ksoo? Does that mean he's choosing not to respond, or does it raise even more questions? Go down to the comments and say what you think. Not what everyone else is saying, not what's trending, but your real opinion on this. Hit that like button if this made you see things differently. Subscribe if you want more breakdowns like this as the story keeps evolving, and stay locked in. Because situations like this don't just disappear. They stay in the conversation.